Awesome. This is Darren with Leaders in Business Podcast, where CEOs and executives in the digital marketing and social media space share their best advice. There's 6 questions in 9 minutes because leaders know what they are talking about. So let's get to it. So in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Hassan Mirza. I am a social media strategist and community builder. I've been working in social media for about 15 years. I'm currently working in a marketing role at Angel Hack. They produce hackathons for companies. I'm also the founder of House, which is a community platform virtual event series for queer and trans people of color thriving at the intersection of tech and culture. I've worked with a number of tech companies in the past few years, including Google, Instagram, Grindr, I love what I do.
Wow, you've been around the block. So what's the best thing about leading your business?
I think the best thing about leading business is right now there's just an amazing opportunity to be learning as much as possible. I think, the time that we're at home away from this is actually time that we can invest back into our education, invest into networking with people that we might not necessarily meet in person. I feel like this time in COVID especially, I've really had the opportunity to connect with people all over the world, and that's been a real blessing, and being able to do that from home has been great.
That's awesome. And it sounds like you've had a lot of success. We hear, especially with the COVID, from other business leaders that it can be challenging to grow your business in today's environment. What are your thoughts on that?
Thoughts on how it's challenging? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, especially like being isolated, being away from interactions can be challenging, but again, I think it goes back to like the amount of opportunities there is now to join virtual conferences, to also be that type of person that can pay it forward. I think so many of us have really benefited from having mentors and having people to guide us. I personally get a lot of gratification and actually learn a lot when I'm able to pay it forward and offer help to people who are earlier in their careers. I think that's something that's really beautiful about this time, is that people seem to be a bit more empathetic and willing to help people that are outside of their immediate like business circles or immediate roles.
Wow, that's a beautiful insight. And so, what is the best advice that you would be able to give to other business leaders about creating a successful business like yours?
It's really important to have a clear strategy. I mean, this is how I approach social media as well. Having a strategy is about, defining the objectives of the business, what kind of metrics will you use to measure that success, and having some targets in place, having timeframes in mind, and then really based on all of that, as well as your audience, defining your plan of action. You're going to be, in the example of social media, how often you're going to be posting, what social channels make the most sense for business. Having and how you're going to measure success is really key. So when executing, you have a lot of times people try to start executing without having a strategy, and it's then really difficult to measure performance, and it's hard to stay focused.
Absolutely. And a follow-up question to that is, with your business Angel Hack, are you able to provide those strategies?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm working as a marketing manager at Angel Hack. They essentially have a strategy that's kind of built out for all clients, and essentially I will do a lot of the execution. So, setting up designing the website, and setting up the newsletters, doing developer outreach, doing social media, really using all of these different channels to help market a hackathon. And so, yeah, I mean, there's definitely an element of strategy in there. I think a lot of execution execution and strategy really go hand in hand. It's hard to do one without the other. So yeah, that's absolutely something to do. And for other businesses, I work as a freelance consultant as well. And I mainly kind of work in two phases. Do start with, strategy and move into implementation and reporting.
So if you're going to drop a golden nugget of strategy to the audience, with your expertise, what would you offer? Like, lead them. What vertical would you lead them towards?
Strategy. I think it's really important to define the audience. Find the audience, kind of really map out what that audience looks like, what those different groups of stakeholders are. And then incorporating, for social media, to create a social listening plan based on that audience. I think so many companies they think that if they're doing social media that they just need to create a bunch of content and that it'll go. But a lot of the meat and a lot of the juice of social is in the listening and in listening in the conversations, especially to those people that you've identified. I think that's where you can get a lot of really good ideas, and also ensure that your company is responding to your audience's needs by addressing those questions.
That's great advice. So what other successful business leaders like yourself would you like to acknowledge and should be on my podcast?
Sure. I mean, I think a friend of mine, Bailey Richardson, is really wonderful. She runs, she wrote a book called Get Together. It's about growing communities. She also runs a podcast that's called Get Together. She was an early employee at Instagram and is now really specialized in communities, and I think she has a lot of really great things to say and has interviewed some really amazing people on her podcast.
Awesome. We'll reach out to her. Now for the final fun question, who's the most interesting person to follow on social media and why?
Sure. I think I'm seeing what he's done today. I think Ricky Thompson is a really fascinating person to follow. He's a young Black queer creator. And he has been kind of creating these fun videos he's been on Instagram for years, has of course kind of taken over TikTok with a lot of fun videos. And I just saw today that Spotify signed him to do a podcast. So I think he's a lot of fun, has a really great voice, and it's also kind of an example of Gen Z just kind of taking control of their destiny and creating a lot of really good content and being very authentic. So Ricky Thompson is a great person to follow.
Awesome. Well, Hassan, it was a pleasure having you on. How can people find you?
Sure. They can find me at Hassan Mirza on Twitter or Instagram, or please connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just linkedin.com/in/hey Hass. And yeah, please reach out to me. I really love connecting and helping wherever I can.
Awesome. That's a wrap. This is Darren with Leaders in Business Podcast. For more insights and ideas, go to our website, leadersinbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you, everyone.